Ready? Chapter 10 Machine. When Keon, Aino and Tyr returned to the camp after their berry adventure, everyone else were getting ready to leave. Keon's stomach was full of wild strawberries at this point. The colonel sure knew how to find and pick them. Keon had to give him that. The laughing captain from yesterday walked past them and gave them a giant smile. As he passed by Lia, she greeted him with a good morning, while he instead responded with a cheerful "Yo, fatso." She looked like a wounded puppy and turned to the woman next to her, the same woman who the previous night had been seated right next to Lia. Judging by the current looks of the woman, her shoulder-length hair sprouting off in all directions, she hadn't gotten much sleep. "Colonel Reidun, did you hear what Captain Grima called me?" Lia said, holding back her tears. The colonel's eyes darkened. Her patience had reached its limits when it came to the second lieutenant. "I don't care what he called you. I had to listen to you whine and whine for an eternity about being called heavy yesterday. We are all heavy. We are all supposed to be heavy. We are blood mages. I am 2 meters tall. You are not a victim. Stop acting like one. You ruined my night. All I wanted was to get drunk and laugh with my fellow officers. But you ruined it!" The colonel stormed off, leaving Lia looking completely speechless. Keon let his eyes rest on Lia. "I don't know how to feel. What I did to her as a child still shapes the person she is now. I really damaged her." Aino put her arm on his shoulder. "Why don't you try forgiveness?" He shook his head. "I've already tried apologizing. It did nothing. All she wants is revenge." Aino turned her head towards him. "I meant you, not her. I don't think she can be reached at this point. Hate is seething from her. I can feel her. If she hadn't been interrupted back then at the riverbank by Yuwa, I'm sure she would have eventually killed you. You gave her an apology and she threw it right back in your face. That was her choice. You did what you could do for her. The rest is up to her." Keon looked down at the ground. Forgive himself. A task easier said than done. If the roles were reversed, would he be able to forgive her? Yua's loud voice rang throughout the camp. "We're making a run for it. We need to be at the next camp before the sun sets. Scouts have been seen. There could be ambushes waiting for us. Let's not make ourselves easier targets than necessary." All the officers in his army stood up. As Aino climbed onto Keon's back once again, she noticed Atle looking more worried than usual. Tyr came up next to him and nudged him with his elbow. "The camp will be fine when we arrive. It's run by a machine, after all." Atle took a heavy breath. "We need to move out now. Get in formation," he yelled out to his own officers as they all stood up as well. The ground moved as the officers ran together. Keon had always been a fast runner, but this time he had Aino on the back and wasn't as fast as he normally would be. He noticed how he never seemed to drag behind though, no matter the tempo he was running at. The officers seemed to adapt to him, always keeping the same formation with him and Aino in the middle. As he felt the sweat drip down his forehead, he hoped there would be a lake close by the next camp. He was in need of a good dip in the water. When they arrived at the next camp, it had already gotten dark. All the 5 officers of the camp sat around a campfire, keeping watch. They looked around as they saw the large crowd approach. All the 5 officers stood up. One of them, shorter than the rest with a pixie haircut, walked straight up to Aino and Keon. She made a short bow with no expression on her face. "Welcome, Aino. I am Major General Edda Pil." Her voice was cold, seemingly void of any emotions. She then looked straight at Keon. "Welcome. What is your name?" This was the first time any of the officers had spoken directly to him. Most of them just treated him like air, or gave him looks of disapproval. My name is Keon, he answered, a bit surprised. She gave him a subtle nod of approval. Thank you for carrying our creator, Keon. Her voice was still as cold as before. You're welcome. Keon wasn't sure if she expected an answer from him, but he did know that this was the first time any of the officers had showed him any such respect. Most of the arriving officers were already searching out places to sleep. Non-stop running for a full day would make anyone tired, even a mage. Have you had any problems, seen any scouts or signs of any possible attacks today? It was Atle's voice coming from next to them. The question was directed towards Edda. No problems, no scouts, no signs of attacks, she answered in the same flat, cold tone she used before. Is there any lake close by? Keon asked her, a bit hesitant. Yes, I'll show you. It's over that hill. She pointed towards a small hill close by. Good idea. It would be nice to wash up before we turn in for the night. Aino rested her chin on Keon's shoulder and looked towards the water. I'll come with you. Atle felt in need of a bath as well. The cold water felt refreshing and well needed after today. Keon looked up at the night sky. He tried to remember the different constellations he saw. Aino looked over at the waterside. Edda seemed to have gone back to the camp after leading the way to the lake. Aino looked over at Atle. Do you believe that Edda is a machine? He looked back at her and shook his head. People tend to vilify what they don't understand. Just because she doesn't show feelings like the rest of us do, doesn't mean she's void of any. I know many of the officers like to refer to her as a machine, Tyr in particular, but that's because it's easier to dismiss her than to understand. Tyr is smart, but the way he thinks is good versus bad. There is no nuance. It's a survival technique. It's easier to fight the other side if you see yourself as good and the other as evil. I know about the attacks he gets. Disa once found him wandering the forest, having no clue where he was, hardly even remembering who he was. As for Disa, I hear her during the nights. She has the room next to me at the headquarters. Her scream sometimes echoes through the corridor. Nightmares of the past. During wartime, we are all in survival mode. In peacetime, we finally get a chance to heal. The actions of our past come to haunt us. It's not easy to know how to deal with it. Atle stood up and walked back to the waterside, where Edda had returned as well, carrying something. As Aino and Keon came up beside her, she handed over some folded clothes. They're clean. You can use them as you wish. I noticed that your normal clothes were worn down. They both looked at her. Thank you, they said unanimously. You're welcome, she answered, as cold as always. A snoring sound was heard. Atle had laid down on the sand and fallen asleep right away. The rest of them sat down next to him. They call you a machine, Aino said to Edda. Edda slowly turned her head towards Aino. I know how other people see me. Many see me as either having no emotions or as bottling them all up, being a completely different person on the inside. Neither is true. I just like to be alone, that's all. I don't want to be part of their love or companionship. Why should I love another person? My family didn't love me when I grew up. They taught me how to be strong on my own. They taught me what I needed to survive in this world. The harder your surface gets, the stronger you get. It doesn't mean that I don't understand others, or that I don't have any feelings. I know how to fight. It's easy for me, but I'm not a machine. Keon took a deep breath. You are the first of the officers who showed me any respect, who spoke to me directly. Edda switched her glance from Aino to Keon. All humans deserve respect. Aino gazed over the tranquil lake. The other mages, they're damaged as well. They just hide it. I can feel it. they all scream on the inside, some more so than others.